Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Happy birthday, happy unbirthday, merry unbirthday to all. This video is just going to be random topics, whatever comes to the mind, and I'm also just going to do an open Q&A. If anyone jumps on here and has any questions, I will answer them. Usually I just stick to a topic and don't focus so much on questions, but today I will have an open Q&A and just do a little speaking, whatever comes to mind. Doing well, Richard. How about yourself, brother? I have tonight off of work, so I am happy about that. How are you doing, brother Richard? Sudhara, what is a question? That's good. Flipping the question on the question. Good. Good. The question any question we have is us remembering the very question. There's knowing and asking. When we have a thought that enters the mind and we're instantaneously questioning what created the stars, what created the universe, there's knowing in the question. So by the question coming to the surface of the conscious mind, it is the subconscious moving into the conscious, where you can analyze and spread that awareness into consciousness, where the consciousness can interpret, measure, label, title, study, determine what is. But all a question does is just remind us of the very answer. The question and the answer go hand in hand. They're one and the same. We are the question and we are the answer. In being one, you instantaneously birth the other. We are all the singular self, which is no self at all. But in the physical, we appear as a self. We travel through a self. We establish identity through a self. But it is not just the body which we're establishing self. It is the outside world in relation to the inside body which we are establishing self. Every single thing, every single person outside of you is the mirror to the singular self. You could never view your own face without a mirror. You could never, and this is a question my friend Addie asked me one time, if you were outside yourself, would you like yourself? The answer is, if you were outside yourself, you would not recognize what you were looking at as self. It would be your mirror. So when you study people or you go out into places and you analyze others, you judge others, realize you are literally viewing yourself outside of yourself. There's no other way a camera can view its own lens. So it's obvious the only other way a focal point can view its own focal point is appearing outside itself. So in you appearing outside of me, I am able to analyze myself outside myself. The inside and outside are the mirror to the singular self we're establishing. There is no self without others, and there is no others without self. We bounce who we think we are based off of other people. If there were no others, there would be no self. I've used this interpretation and I'll use it again here. For instance, I can say, I as Tyler like peanuts, but Johnny is allergic to peanuts. Johnny does not like peanuts. Well, how can I know that I like peanuts? Well, there has to be someone as a polar opposite who does not like peanuts. So we base, and that's just a dumb example, an elementary example, but we base who we are, what we like, what we don't like, off of other people. We bounce who we think we are and what we are off of others to establish who we are. And this is where you can say, I like this, he doesn't like that. The inside and outside are one and the same. They are both the singular self. You only know of who you are because of your mirror appearing separate from you. You only have an experience because of the people appearing outside of you. Realize you lose nothing here. You are not here to lose anything at all, but to know the self which you could have never known otherwise, and to know others as the self which again you could never know otherwise. You're not meant to lose anything here, but to have the experience to know what love is. You can only know what love is when something appears separate from you. So when something appears separate from you, you must absolutely lose the appearance of that. You will lose the appearance of that. Appearance means the illusion of separation, different forms, but all forms are the same awareness. And once you remember who you are, the ultimate answer is not unlearning what schools have taught you, it's simply remembering who you are. If you want to create this long road like Dorothy did, where she follows the yellow brick road and you study this and this and this and this and this and this just to prolong yourself to finally realize at the end you've been there the whole time, you can very much do that for yourself. But people are trying to connect to their third eye, open the third eye. How do I make it there? How do I connect to this? Remove all ideas of you being separate from what you call here or there. Remove all ideas of you being separate from the God mind, because the reality is the human mind and the God mind are created through the same mind. One is limited, the other is unlimited, yet both are created through the same mind. A human and a God are characters, are titles. Both created through the same mind. And when you realize this, you will realize the God mind is the human mind, and the human mind is the God mind. The human is in what you call the lower chakra, the lower chakras, the lower frequencies of self-awareness, because the human has not yet become aware of themselves beyond themselves as human. And that's why I've said, if you appeared outside of yourself, would you recognize yourself? And the answer is no. You're human now, in this form. But if you appeared outside of what you call human here and now as something else, you would not recognize this as human. That which tells you you're human is not human. The only thing that separates us is form, is frequency, is self-awareness. Every single individual is in a world of their own, and this is why I love the movie Alice in Wonderland. She talks about being in a world of her own, and she embraces the insanity behind it. The whole concept of Alice in Wonderland takes this concept of life, of oneness, of one awareness, of all of us being in a world of our own. And it embraces the insanity and the chaos and the madness behind existence at all. And quantum physics is already starting to prove these things, that we are all independent universes. Each choice we make splits into multiverses because we are all quite literally in a world of our own. And the good thing, another thing quantum physics proves is there is free will. There's a huge debate about, is there free will? Absolutely. Because what quantum physics shows was something called quantum superposition, where a particle, aka you, can be in more than one place at a time, and that's what quantum physics proves. Every single event you can possibly think of, every route, every scenario, every option, every choice has already happened. But remember, time does not exist. So it's not that it has already happened. Everything is the mind. So if you can think of the scenario, if you can think of it, it's possible. It's happened. It's already done. It's us which chooses that one scenario, that one choice, which collapses the superposition into one focal point, which we experience. We collapse everything into the event horizon. And that event horizon is where we exist as the focal point. We're not actually traveling anywhere. We're the projector, projecting the real. It appears very much so that we're traveling in the body, but again, the body is not what you are. You travel through it. Beyond the body, you are limitless. But through the body, you are here to experience your limitedness, which reveals your limitlessness. You can only have concept of limitlessness, of infinity, through birthing into its opposite, of a limited being, a mortal being. It's through this realization that in all history books, man has been said to become immortal, and there are so many men that are corrupt and greedy that are trying to find ways to become immortal in the physical. They take it literal, that you can literally become immortal and last forever in a form. They do not realize themselves beyond form. You can run from yourself, and you can even hide from yourself, as we're doing now through forms, through intelligent identities. Can very cleverly hide from ourselves. But we always, some way, turn out to be the Ouroboros, the snake which devours its own tail, which is the ultimate self-realization of your selflessness. Beyond every mask, beyond every identity, beyond every concept which you think you are, is something so much more. Concept is limited. A title is limited. But back to free will, back to quantum physics. It's not that everything has already happened. As I've said, the mind is everything. The mind is quite literally a quantum computer, if you want to call it that. We can think up of every single scenario and situation and whatnot, maybe not every, but we can explore different avenues and situations and results before they've happened, which makes us the most intelligent being on the earth. No other animal creature can analyze things to see, is it going to happen this way? Is this way better? Is that way better? We're a quantum computer in ourselves. We analyze things before they happen to see, is this the best option? Is that the best option? That's exactly what quantum physics does. They're starting to try and open simulations, and they're starting to hold them open for a little longer than they were before. And in these simulations, they're going to be able to test whether this worked, whether that worked, this worked, that worked. They can run the test just like that. And the quantum computer will give them the one scenario where it worked out for the best. Obviously much faster than what we're doing. Obviously much more intelligent than what we're doing. But the brain itself is a quantum computer. So while everything has happened, it hasn't actually happened. You conceptualizing it in the mind makes it possible, and therefore can happen. But again, we collapse it through choice. We collapse the superposition into one singular focal point, the projector, into the event horizon, which we experience through our choice. Everything is our choice. And that's where free will comes in. While every scenario, every choice, everything that you could possibly think of is possible, you choose which one route you take. You choose which one scenario you collapse into that event horizon. What this proves is you are quite literally creating your reality through choice alone. And when this choice is not consciously directed, it becomes fate. It becomes a power given to something outside of you, and so it is fate. But when choice alone becomes consciously directed, you have awoken in the dream. Any impossibility now becomes possible. This does not to say that when you awaken, you're going to be able to walk through walls and do all these things. But remember, any impossibility is now possible. Because why do we have dreams? Many of us have dreams, not all of us, but many of us use dreams to escape the reality. Well, if I can't do this here, I'm going to close my eyes and dream of a place where I can do this, because you limit yourself here. But what if you could bring the dream to reality and realize the two are one and the same? It's just a different face of life, yin and yang, black and white, two different faces, but both awareness. You're aware in a dream, you're aware in reality, obviously in different levels of awareness. But why in a dream are you unlimited to do whatever you want? And in reality, when you open the eyes, you are now limited. What we don't realize is that's culturally trained into us. Society has made us this way. Same with the title of being human. In being human, we're seeking what began a human. What created a human? What started the human race? What started a human being? And as long as you're looking for a start, a beginning, creator, you're looking for things that do not exist because you identify with something which does not exist either. A human being is a label that we have labeled the body. And it can be understood that we can call ourselves this, but we must know of ourselves beyond what we call ourselves. We must know of ourselves beyond the limited word, human. Dissolve the word human. Because as I said, the God mind is the human mind, and the human mind is the God mind. The concept of a God needs the concept of a human, and the concept of a human needs the concept of a God. They need each other because they are one and the same. They are not different. The devil and God, whatever you would like to call him, has many names, I'm not going to get into terminology, but they're one and the same. We view them as separate through the physical appearance, but our greatest mistake as human beings is not realizing that duality is one thing. It's one being. As long as we are not acknowledging duality as one being, we will always be off. You're using these instead of this. You're using the temporary eyes which die and rot. The mind is everything that is. Everything. Everything which makes you who you think you are is the mind. Everything you are experiencing outside of who you think you are is the mind. Reality does not exist, nor does your concept of self. They're both illusory, and what this means is they are just that, concepts to the mind. Once you realize exactly who you are, you will realize Earth is but a frequency, and again, we're all in our own universe, so while we share the same space, We are not existent in the same universe, in the same earth, in the same reality, in the same experience. Again, we share the same space, but we are not having the same experience. We are not existent in the same reality. Because again, reality is illusion, self is illusion. We project who we think we are into the concept of reality. So many people are looking for a shape to the earth. It's flat, it's round, we're inside it, we're outside it, this, that. All the shape of the earth proves, or gives us, is location. Ask anybody, can you prove where you're at? And there's not a single soul on this earth that can prove to you where they're at. So all the shape does is give people an illusion of location. I'm here. But realize, we base who or where we think we are on who we think we are. Because remember, the self is an illusion and the reality, the word reality, is an illusion. We project the self, which is inside of us, outside of us, into the outside world to experience what we call reality. This is how quick your experience here can change. Once you realize everything is a frequency, you will realize and accept everyone's independent truth. You will realize it's not your responsibility to make everyone understand you. You're here to understand yourself. You can help remind others who they are, but you can never have them understand who you are. And you're not here to do that. You're here to understand self. Whoever you may think that be, it does not matter whether you think the self is the one in the body or the universe or the anything or the selfless being, it does not matter. To know any self at all is the gift. All the shape of the earth does, all this argument does, is give people the illusion that they know where they're at. And once we think we know where we're at, we can begin to base who we think we are on where we're at. Where we think we are is a reflection of who we think we are. And it's the very same thing with extraterrestrials and other life forms. The truth of the matter is people who have already become aware of themselves beyond human have already made the realization that we are alone in the universe. We are the only ones. Again, this is not to say there are not different appearances, different life forms which appear different than a human. But what this is to say is once you become aware of yourself beyond a human, outside of yourself, you have made the connection and actually realized you are the alien you seek. If you appeared outside of a human, the human would then be alien. You are what you seek. No matter what it is, you are what you seek. Awareness is everything. But again, everything is the mirror to self. So we can be visited through extraterrestrials or any other life form. And someone who has become aware of themselves beyond a human will acknowledge that that is them. Obviously, the appearance is different. The identity is different. But it is the very same awareness. The very same awareness which allowed me to establish an identity, a place, a position, a concept of self, is the same way this life form has done the very same thing with the very same awareness. And those who have done psychedelics, basically I would say know firsthand. When you break the body, and the body quite literally merges with what you call the outside world, leaving you no boundary. The body is your boundary which separates you from the outside world, allowing you to just be a body. But when the body merges with the outside world, boundary is dissolved. Limits is dissolved. Identity is dissolved. There are no others. It's just you in that very moment. And this is why people who have done psychedelics have said, it's all me. I am that I am is a representation of every single being in a form being one awareness. And that is the closest thing that can put this to words, is I am that I am. It's you. It's you that you seek. It's you that you seek outside of yourself because you have projected what you think you are not beyond yourself, and so you seek it. You are Alice chasing the white rabbit, seeking your own tail, because you have not realized self beyond the self. If you just think you're this, you will project what you think you are not outside yourself, and so chase it, pursue it. You have separated yourself from what you seek. And you'll never make the connection that this is you, whatever it may be. Some are seeking the face of this elite government corporation. Some are seeking God. Some of them are seeking their higher mind. Some are seeking aliens. Whatever it is you seek is you seeking yourself beyond form. Beyond this temporary self which you know is bound to a death, which you know must end. All you seek in the truth is yourself beyond death. Many of us are afraid of death because we identify with the self that must die. And so we seek ourself, we wish to transcend the self existent in death. If the body has to die, well, I don't want to be this body anymore. I want to become aware beyond my body. I want to become aware of myself beyond appearance and disappearance. And that's the whole purpose of death. Death is to show us what we are beyond disappearance. That is where we are eternal. That is where we are always connected. That is where we are all one. If this video resonates with anyone, feel free to share on your page, and thank you to everyone who's already dropped a share on here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I'm sorry if I've missed any questions thus far. Anyone have questions, feel free to ask. And if this video resonates with you, feel free to share. Good morning to everybody just joining on. To open your third eye, you need not do anything. This is what a Kundalini experience allows one to realize, is that you're already here. But through the two snakes, which are representative of the two dual hemispheres, we choose one snake or the other. We're one side or the other. So when the two snakes join together up the spine into one single unity, it is man becoming God and God becoming man, realizing the two polarities are one and the same. Two polarities are two polar opposites. And what do you think the snakes are? They're two polar opposites, depicted way back in Chinese times of the yin and yang. The same illustration of the kundalini or the snakes, yin and yang. Polar opposites, polarities, which appear separate, appear different because they have to. You would not know love without hate. You would not know darkness without light. You would not know self without other. You would not know God without human. You would not know human without God. One does not exist without the other. And this is exactly why man is failing. We have racist people out here who fail. Fail, because these idiots want to sit here and say the white guy was birthed first, and then these idiots want to say the black guy was birthed first. You're not human. And I'm sorry to even say that, but the racism is dumb. You're not even a human being. You're not even the one in the form. To hurt another is to literally hurt yourself. If you only knew that, you would have no desire to hurt your reflection. This is why Buddhists do not fight. They are aware they fight themselves if they fight you. You are not separate from me. I am you, you are me. To fight you is to fight myself, literally. But you have to get into the mindset to where you realize these two snakes are one. Someone who's trying to open the third eye is trying to make a mission out of connecting to something they already are. If you're trying to do something to open the third eye, you are going to fail instantaneously because you are making it a mission, an obstacle, something you must connect to. You're already it. You're already there. You're already home. In you trying to connect to the third eye, open the third eye, you are believing in the thought that it is not already open, that you are not already there. You are separating yourself from where you want to be. And you believe that you are separate from it. So you are. What we think we are, we become. It's just like the assumed role of a human being. We have convinced our form that we are a human being and just a human being, and so this is what we have become, because whatever the mind convinces itself it is, it becomes. That is the power of the mind. So just imagine when you believe that you are a limitless being, the God that you have chased. Just imagine when you believe that the way you believe you're a human. Just imagine how many possibilities open up to you. Ask yourself, right where you sit, or right where you stand, how limited are you through identifying with just a human being, with just my birth name, with just the body? How limited are you? Versus, I'm not one character, I'm not one name, I am that I am. I'm everyone and everything. I wasn't born just on July. I've never been born. I always have been, you see? By you just identifying with the body, you are instantaneously limiting yourself between appearance and disappearance. If I'm just the body, well then I'm just what arrived here on July 15th, and I'm just what will die here. But to become self-aware beyond appearance and disappearance is how man becomes immortal. Utilizing time to realize your timelessness. Yes, you are limited in time in the physical, but you are meant to use this physical time to realize yourself beyond time. You have time so you can know its polar opposite. No time at all. Infinite. And infinite is chaotic, but in that chaos is no boundary, no limit. That's why it's so chaotic. Time is order. It brings order to that chaos. It separates chaos and brings order to it. And all we know in the physical is order. We are terrified of chaos. We are terrified of ourselves beyond ego. We are terrified of ourselves beyond form. And that's why the hardest thing to do for the ego is to admit to the ego that beyond a self, or any self at all, you are selfless. But you will realize only the ego within us needs to hold on to the concept of a self, needs to claim the concept, title, label of a self, and needs to be Tyler or an identity, because identity is ego. Only ego needs identity. But this is why I tell people what ego most seeks, it most fears, and this is the most ironic part. Ego wants to find itself beyond itself, but in doing so, it must abolish itself. It must destroy itself. So, everything you seek, you most fear. You cannot face your selfless self without abolishing the ego, without removing what you think you are. And this is where spirituality begins to feel a lot like death, like dying. Like what you are is coming to an end, and so your whole reality is changing. You feel like you're losing your mind, but in fact you are finding it. All you are losing is concepts which you are not. It is through these concepts that you have established who you think you are, and it's all you've ever known. And so it feels like you are losing yourself, but you are not. You only shed these illusory layers to what you are not, which limit you. Inside your own box, you are what's getting in your own way. And there is no one else to blame. There is nothing else outside of you. There is nothing outside of you waiting to reveal itself to you. The signs from the universe, the repeating numbers, the synchronicities, all of this is your formless self trying to speak to yourself in the form. And you can keep reposting the numbers and the synchronicities, or you can listen to the message. That is your formless self, which has no form, has no boundary, no limit, speaking to you in a form. That is you revealing you to yourself. That is the universe becoming aware of itself. And this is why I've said, it is through the human senses we are only taking in ourselves, the singular self. You can touch my arm with your hand, but the only sensation you will feel with your senses is your own self in relation to my hand or my arm. But the sensation you feel is your own. You are only feeling yourself right within yourself. When you smell something, you are smelling it right within you. You are only taking in your own scent. And it's the same with sight. Put 100 people into a movie theater and have everybody watch the same movie. All 100 people saw something different, yet they watched the same movie. And this is what I mean, where we share the same space but exist in different realities. It's quite literally just as literal as it sounds. We share the same space, but we exist in different realities. That is the only way 100 people can go into a movie theater and all have seen a different thing. Everyone interpreted it differently. Because again, you have not seen anything but yourself. The outside world is an entire reflection, a mirror, to the singular self. So you may see me, but you don't see me. You see yourself in me, as other, as someone other than you. You bounce who you think you are off of me. You may hear me say something and say, well, I don't agree with him. Well, you only know of I, of self, because of in relation to me, appearing outside of you as other. But I am you as you are me. We're one and the same. So it is through the human senses we're only taking in and experiencing ourself. This is why I constantly say we are the universe experiencing ourself. I know a lot of people have thrown this term around before me, the universe experiencing itself, but exactly what does that mean? The duality of two, male, female, sun and moon, is the singularity experiencing itself, is the universe experiencing itself. I say itself because awareness is not male or female. The singularity is a formless, selfless energy allowing for a conscious experience. Awareness is source to all that is. It is awareness which births the conscious and subconscious, you and me, inside and outside. And it is through that duality that we establish the singular self. Again, I base who I am and bounce who I am off of others. I can only know who I am in relation to others. Because I can establish, I like this, I like that kind of music, I like that kind of music. Well, how can I know I like this? Well, there must be other people to bounce myself off of. And that's where I can say, I like this type of music, but she likes that type. Self only exists in relation to others, and others only exist in relation to self. That is the duality, experiencing itself as the singularity. Or I'm sorry, that is the duality, experiencing itself. And that is the singularity, the duality itself. Male, female is the it, is what is forever looking beyond these forms, but can never be seen. That is exactly what we are looking for, is simply what is looking. Many people get lost in fractal patterns. My first few psychedelic trips, I was being shown fractal patterns, and I was trying to go as deep into these patterns as I could, and I was almost going insane in my own mind trying to reach the end, because what the fractal showed me was there was no end. That's the very representation of a fractal. The fractal is our most simplistic way of taking something which is infinite, never ending, never beginning, and representing it on a two-dimensional picture. A fractal pattern is the only way, or is one of the most basic ways we can witness infinity. Something which has never began, never ended, no set location, just constantly the same, unfolding, 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 and never ending. What it's trying to show you is that you are not in fact looking for anything but what is looking. But you're so stuck in the shapes and the fractal and the spiral and where am I and who am I that you don't realize all you look for in this insanity of infinity is what is looking. And what is looking is no ego at all, no identity at all. And this is something that ego clenches, because this is where you find out, basically, ego is non-existent. Ego is what you travel through. Ego is the one telling your story as an individual. Ego is identity. But it is also ego which is bound to the birthing and death, the appearance and disappearance. So you can see beyond ego, but you can never kill ego. Ego is the individual experience, is your identity. And it's crucial that you do not try and kill identity. You observe it. You become the witness to it. You can only suffer in your identity when you are convinced this is you. You identify with this as you. And so anything that happens to this, you feel happens to you. But when you witness identity, you are what's looking. You remain untouched. you realize you are already home. Nothing here can harm you. You lose nothing. You are whole and complete in yourself. And all a soulmate does, all a companion does, again, everything outside of you is your mirror. So all a soulmate or companion does is remind you how to fall in love with yourself. They should not be turned into a dependency, something I can't live without. That is a weakness, an attachment. Fear of loss is a path to the dark side. You will destroy yourself if you are trying to hold on to everything which is in constant decay. You will destroy yourself. You will suffer. I've tried telling people this, and all I'm trying to offer is an alternative way, a friendly alternative way to look at death, to view death. I'm not at all telling people how to mourn. I'm not at all trying to tell people that this is an easy thing to go through, because the truth is nobody can prepare for death. All these words and talks and philosophies sound great, but until you get that phone call, you can't prepare for it. But you have to realize tragedy is going to strike here. Things that we cannot expect are going to happen. And so we can prepare for these the best we can. So when we do begin to lose things, lose people, it is somewhat expected. Realize, whether you separate through a disagreement or an argument, or you separate through death, life or death will separate you from all that you love. Both will separate you from all that you love, not just death. Life can happen and death can happen, and they can separate you from things that you love. But this is where I tell people, if my mother, I will use my mother for example, if my mother was not appearing outside of me, separate from me, I would have no knowledge, no conscious idea who my mother was, because she would already be a part of me, a part of my mind, a part of my awareness. And the truth is, beyond identity, we are all the same awareness. But if my mother, my family, was not appearing outside of me, I would have no idea who they were. So yes, things appear separate from you, and when they appear separate from you, you will have to lose this appearance, which is appearing outside of you. But realize the appearance which is appearing outside of you is the very nature to everything you are. Beyond your appearance, beyond their appearance, you dissolve into the very same energy. You are one, forever connected. The moments you've had with your loved ones are yours forever once you remember who you are. If you wish to hold on to the physical which is in decay, you will suffer. What I try and do is celebrate death. Celebrate the death. Not the fact that you have lost the physical person, obviously, but you are celebrating that person's identity. The fact that you were able to know who they were at all, to witness them come to life, to be able to say, oh yeah, that's so like her, or oh, that's so like him, because you know them. That is a gift. We are not entitled to this. That is the very gift which should be celebrated. You have not lost them. You have lost the appearance of them outside of you. You have lost what allows you to be separate from them. But once they are no longer in appearance, they are no longer separate from you. Only the form separates you. Only the surface level separates you. Once who you love has dissolved, has gone beyond disappearance, they're no longer separate from you. And so, yes, I cannot see them, I cannot experience them in this tangible reality anymore. But they are a part of me. I celebrate them. I do not mourn them because I have not lost anything. I celebrate who they were and the gift that I was able to know family, mom, dad, anything beyond self. Because when all is one, there is no self, there is no others. And this is something that I've had to look deep into myself in DMT when I have done my psychedelic trips. It gets terrifying when you become all that is, because you witness your family dissolve into you, and it feels like you have lost them. And after you have mourned the loss of them, it prepares you for the next greatest loss, which is self. Once you lose the outside world, you lose the inside world, who you think you are. And once you have fully lost your outside world and inside self, you have nothing left to lose. And it is in this moment when you let go of everything that you will laugh with yourself to realize you have lost nothing. But you had to actually believe that you have lost something, including yourself. You had to actually believe that you lost it, only to realize you haven't. That's why most people come out of psychedelics who have had a breakthrough laughing. Laughing. Because you have a greater understanding into reincarnation, into death. You no longer fear it. You no longer are hostile with the ideas. You embrace them because you have the greater understanding. Why must we appear separate? Why must we appear this way? When you lose the outside world and when you lose the inside world, self and other, you and me no longer exist. All is one, and all that can be known is I am that I am. That is no experience at all, and that's why it has been said that beyond form we are selfless. There is nothing to be known. We are everything, but we are nothing. And through being nothing, we are already everything. And beyond the expression of everything and nothing, when those two combined, is something which cannot be spoken. Same with all duality. When the two become one, the answer is not a spoken word. When human and God come together, the answer is not God. God is still a character, is a limit, just like a human. When the two dual beings, above and below, come together, it equals an answer which is not spoken, which cannot be known. Because you are taking the conscious and subconscious, and you can only know the consciousness. The subconscious is what you're unaware of. And that is my ultimate message as Tyler here. This is what I feel to do. Some people ask me, well, if this is all you, it's all one, who are you talking to? I'm talking to myself. But not myself as Tyler. I speak to myself outside of Tyler. I consciously speak to myself outside of Tyler. That's why I make these videos. I am aware Tyler is bound to a death, decay. Physically will leave this body. And so how I make Tyler come alive is through spreading this philosophy, this awareness of Tyler. I witness Tyler. I observe Tyler. I travel through Tyler. I speak through Tyler, but not as Tyler. I speak through Tyler. And that's why my messages are so universal, because I'm not speaking to one person. I'm speaking to everyone, because we are all one person. I speak to myself outside of myself. That's who I'm talking to, is myself, but a self which will come back and not know this was me. And that's why I say what I say, so that the next time, whoever I am, because I am all of you right now, but whoever I am will come back and hear me talk and say, wow, he was me. We're all one. I get it. That's why I speak. I speak to myself beyond myself. So the next me. But I don't like saying that because everyone's me. Everyone's you. We're all one. But this is to help other me's reflect what you already know. I'm going to jump off and go get some food. Hope everyone had a good morning. Hope everyone enjoyed this live. If it resonated with you, feel free to share this. I'm blocked from sharing and posting in my groups until April 2020. I have been getting censored on my Facebook, but I'm not really one to complain about it or post, screenshots of them limiting me and censoring me, so whatever. But if the post resonates, please give me a share. That's gold to me. Thank you. I will probably upload this on my YouTube channel. I'm not sure just yet. I'll see the response I get from it. If anyone has any questions or feedback, feel free to message me, email me, whatever. Thank you to everyone who shared, who watched this fully. Hope it helps. And message me if you have any problems or concerns, questions, whatever.